Imagine you're sitting alone in a quiet room. The day's noise has finally died down. No emails, no phone buzzing, just you and your thoughts. In this stillness, something happens. You start to reflect, not just on your day, but on your life, your feelings, your purpose. This moment of stillness becomes a bridge, a link between two things we don't often associate: psychology and spirituality. You might think psychology is all about brains and behavior, while spirituality belongs to temples, churches, or mountaintops. But in truth, they're often walking hand in hand, quietly influencing each other behind the scenes of our everyday lives. Psychology is traditionally the study of the mind, our thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. It aims to help us understand why we do what we do and how to feel better when things go wrong. Spirituality, on the other hand, is about meaning. It's the search for connection to ourselves, to others, to nature, or something greater than us. But here's the twist: we can't truly understand one without the other. Why? Because when life gets hard, most people don't just want to think their way out of pain. They want to feel that their suffering means something, that there's a purpose, that they're not alone. Let's go back to where this connection between spirituality and psychology really begins. It's not something new. In fact, some of the earliest thinkers who studied the human mind were also deeply spiritual. Take Carl Jung, one of the founding fathers of modern psychology. He believed that spiritual experiences weren't just fluffy religious things. They were vital for a person's emotional health. Jung introduced the idea of the self as a central part of our psyche, and he saw it as something deeply spiritual. He talked about the process of individuation, which is really just a fancy word for becoming your true self. And to Jung, that journey wasn't just psychological, it was spiritual at its core. And if you look even further back, you'll find that ancient spiritual traditions, from Buddhism to Christianity, from Sufism to Stoicism, have always included practices that today we'd recognize as deeply psychological. Meditation, prayer, silence, fasting, journaling. These weren't just rituals, they were methods of understanding the self, calming the mind, and aligning with something greater. These practices were early forms of what modern psychology might call self-regulation or emotional resilience. Even the language of spirituality, words like ego, shadow, inner peace, or awakening, has bled into the world of therapy, coaching, and mental health. And that's not an accident. The two fields have always borrowed from each other because they're ultimately trying to answer the same questions. Who am I? Why do I suffer? How do I find peace? What's fascinating is that while religion often framed these questions in terms of morality and salvation, psychology framed them as health and healing. But the emotional territory is often the same: guilt, shame, fear, longing, love, purpose. So the roots of the connection run deep. They've always been there. It's just that for a long time, society treated them like two separate things: science versus spirit, logic versus faith. But real life doesn't separate them. Your pain, your joy, your doubts, and your breakthroughs, they're not just mental or spiritual, they're both. This sets the stage for everything we'll talk about next. So, what does modern-day healing mean? We're living in a time when more people than ever are seeking therapy, and at the same time, more people are drawn to spiritual practices. But what's interesting is how often these two paths overlap. Go into a therapy session today, and your therapist might talk to you about mindfulness, visualization, self-compassion, or even helping your inner child. These aren't just clinical strategies, they're deeply spiritual in nature. Mindfulness, for example, comes straight from Buddhist meditation. It's about being present, observing your thoughts without judgment, and creating space between stimulus and response. That's not just brain science, that's soul work. Similarly, a spiritual guide or pastor might talk to you about boundaries, trauma, emotional triggers, or even childhood wounds, concepts that come straight out of psychology. You might find a priest recommending journaling, or a yoga teacher talking about nervous system regulation. In modern healing, it's all blending together. And for good reason. People are realizing that if they want true healing, they can't just treat their mind while ignoring their soul, or treat their soul while ignoring their mind. Take trauma recovery, for example. For someone healing from past abuse or deep emotional pain, it's not enough to just understand what happened. They often need a deeper sense of meaning, connection, and forgiveness. That's where spirituality steps in. Or consider anxiety. Therapy might help someone manage symptoms, challenge negative thinking, and build healthier habits. But many people also find comfort in prayer, surrender, or faith when things feel out of their control. That spiritual dimension brings peace in a way logic alone can't. Even support groups like Alcoholics Anonymous blend the two. The 12 steps are deeply spiritual, talking about surrendering to a higher power, making amends, and seeking personal transformation. But they also use peer support, accountability, and habit tracking, clear psychological tools. What we're seeing now is that the wall between spirituality and psychology is being taken down. People want tools that work, and they don't care what label they come with. They want to heal, to grow, to understand themselves, and to connect with something greater. And that's exactly where these two fields shine together. You might be wondering, why should I care? Because when life knocks you down, and it will, it's not always enough to just analyze your thoughts or shift your behavior. There's something deeper within you that's aching to be seen, understood, and held with care. You might be going through a breakup, a personal loss, burnout at work, or a major life change. And while psychology can give you tools to manage your emotions, spirituality gives those emotions context. It helps you see that your pain might be pointing you to something greater, an invitation to grow, to evolve, to reconnect with your true self. Spirituality offers a larger narrative. It tells you that even your darkest moments aren't random. They're part of a bigger picture. Psychology can help you get through the day. Spirituality helps you understand why the day matters at all. When you feel lost, spirituality reminds you that you're still on a path. When you feel broken, psychology gives you the tools to put yourself back together. This matters because so many of us feel like we have to choose between being rational or being spiritual. But you don't have to choose. You can be both. You can be someone who reflects, questions, and heals, and also someone who believes, trusts, and connects. This integration helps you feel more whole. It brings your mind and your soul into conversation. And that's where the real transformation begins. Now that we've explored the connection between spirituality and psychology, let's talk about how you can actually bring them together in your everyday life. You don't need to become a monk or get a psychology degree. What you need is intentionality and a few practical habits that help you connect your inner world with your outer actions. Here are 5 simple ways to start. 1. Reflect with purpose. Take a few minutes each day to ask yourself not just what happened today, but what did it teach me? Or what is life trying to show me through this experience? This shift moves you from mental rumination to spiritual reflection. 2. Practice mindful presence. Whether you're washing dishes, walking outside, or drinking tea, try to be fully there. Notice the sensations, the colors, the smells. This grounds your nervous system, psychology, and opens your awareness to the present moment, spirituality. 3. Use journaling as dialogue. Don't just write about your problems. Write as if you're having a conversation with your higher self, or with God, or your inner guide. Ask questions. Listen. This invites both analysis and insight. 4. Set daily intentions, not just goals. Goals are external. I want to get a promotion. But intentions are internal. I want to show up today with courage and kindness. Intentions bridge the gap between what you do and who you want to become. 5. Seek growth, not just relief. Therapy, books, spiritual talks. Use them not just to feel better, but to grow. Ask, what's the deeper lesson here? This keeps you from escaping pain and instead helps you integrate it into your personal development. 7. Create a simple ritual. Even if it's lighting a candle, praying before sleep, or taking 3 deep breaths before starting your day. These small moments reconnect you to yourself and your sense of meaning. By practicing even one of these consistently, you'll start to notice something shift. Your challenges won't disappear, but your capacity to face them with clarity, with faith, and with strength will grow. Here's the big picture. Whether you call it inner work, shadow work, healing, or spiritual awakening, all of it is about bridging 2 worlds, your inner world and the outer one. Psychology helps you understand what's going on inside, your emotions, thought patterns, defense mechanisms, and trauma. It gives you clarity. It gives you language. It helps you become aware of the scripts running your life. Spirituality, on the other hand, invites you to connect that understanding with something bigger than yourself. God, the universe, divine love, or simply a sense of deep purpose. It gives you meaning. It gives you hope. It helps you trust that your journey matters. When you combine both, something powerful happens. You stop seeing your struggles as problems to fix, and you start seeing them as invitations to grow. You stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" You become less reactive, more reflective. You stop chasing quick fixes and start building long-term transformation. You stop blaming the world and start working with what's inside you. In the end, the goal isn't to be perfect. It's to be whole, to know your patterns, to feel your feelings, to understand your story, and to connect all of that with your deeper values and purpose. The more you do this, the more your inner world begins to shape your outer world. Your relationships change. Your decisions become clearer. You begin to live more intentionally, more compassionately, more peacefully. And here's the real secret. This isn't a one-time thing. It's a lifelong practice. But every step you take brings you closer to your true self and closer to the life you're meant to live. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who's on their own journey. Remember to like and subscribe for more deep psychology meaning. And let me know in the comments, where are you in your own spiritual and psychological path? We'll see you in the next video.